Live. 3, 1. Yeah, we're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to NP episode 2. This is our show where nice moves. This is the show where we feature artists, I think, doing really cool stuff, and it's directly talking about a specific drop. Usually you see me and Di together on Money Never Sleeps. Today, I'm lucky to have Di as my second guest on the show, and we'll be discussing his upcoming drop, May 30th, Nameless Dread. So we're going to dig right in here, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, first I gotta say. I mean, the thing that people do on here is they go GM. So I gotta get that out of the way, right?
What do you think of saying? By the way, what do you think of saying GM versus good morning? It feels weird to say GM.
I'm all right with it. I've come around a little bit, dude. Good meat. I think we may have talked about this, but good meat kind of originated out of like ridiculing GM, but then now I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, and you said it too. It's like it's a fucking. Yeah, and it's like you said it before. It's kind of like a ceremony, and I guess like if people want to do it, whatever makes them happy. It's like fucking GM away, dude. Get after it,
Yeah,
I will say,
I realize good meat didn't come from GM. It's obvious, but
I will say, like, I prefer something else with it, like some accommodation. I don't know about you, like I don't really. I'm okay when people say GM and it's the coffee emoji. Like, give me some art to look at or like something, Like, what do you think? Are you looking for something else?
I love GM when you're typing it. So to me, GM on a tweet,
right.
like my GM, I ain't gonna lie, like GM as a ritual for me, I used to do a bunch of stuff in the morning to like be able to deal with myself for the day. We're speaking Nameless Dread. Wake up, feel like shit, look in the mirror. I think ACK saying this, I'm like, oh, you fucking trash bag, like feel like shit. And then I had to do a whole bunch of shit to feel good. GM ritual has taken the place of that for me. So every morning I agree. I like go through the process of like thinking through whatever the universe is presenting to me that morning. And like going, look, like you said, this was my practice starting in April 22 is like make art either. I start usually the night before and then I sleep on it and then see what comes up and then like share some feelings. So I love that. What I think is funny is saying, for some reason, typing it, I have no problem with. But if I'm like GM in person, I don't know why. It's like a weird. I like saying first, I'm a weird guy. I don't like to say. I find if you talk to somebody a lot, I used to. One of the complaints when I left my last company, like I had all the person who took over had very many positive things to say, but they're like, "Yo, there's this really weird thing. Like everyone in the company doesn't say hello or goodbye." And I was like, yeah, because if you're like in something together, like you're on a battlefield together, if it's like if you or I on the battlefield together doing stuff, I'm not like, Di, how was your day? Like, how's everything in your marriage? Like, oh, it's like we're in the fucking trenches. So I love GM. I'm a GM maxi, but in person, I'm a good morning, like good meat, good morning person. So anyway, funny.
Yeah.
I didn't know good meat came from that. It's so I love when I hear shit. It's like so obvious after I'm like, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
All right. That's actually a fun way to start though. So before we dig in to what I think is actually, look, my people have seen us together a ton, and I first came across your work on Tezos in 22. In my great binge buying, where in those days, if you spent like 1.6 ETH on Tezos, you could be number 6 in the world.
Oh my God, man.
It was amazing.
Wild times. Yeah.
I also, so I started following you and you used to post, and I think you mentioned this on RD's thing, which made me happy, but I used to follow, and at that point you were posting a lot more of your DM, like the people coming into your DMs and like these fucking. And so I originally reached out to you in September of 22. And as you said on RD's thing, I'm like, either this dude's going to be like cool or a fucking axe murderer, And so from that, you and I have become, you're one of my closest friends and have been my colleague in sort of building a ton of stuff. And so this is really exciting for me because I sort of have seen your evolution close hand and been talking to you. So before we dig in, I think it's super important to get the basics of the project out there. So Nameless Dread,
Yep.
I'll go over the basics and then you can reiterate. It's long form
That sounds good.
generative on art blocks. What that means, I think what's interesting about this is just there's certain projects that can often bring a new community to a platform. For example, Sense brought a lot of ETH people to Bitcoin. This project, in my estimation, will bring obviously art blocks is an immensely important part of the game as is. But there's many people who are your followers and collectors who are probably not the typical art blocks connector. So this
Yep.
is long form generative. What that means, I'm sure most people know, is that a lot of generative, the artist can curate it. They make a bunch of outputs and then they take the best. Long form generative just means what comes out is what comes out. There's 669, and we're going to let Di talk about this, but I'll give the basics. 669 individually drawn one of ones that were then used to make these long form generative outputs. The first 40 buyers will get into the mechanism, will get a watercolor. May 30th, 3 p.m. Eastern, it's what I call a real Dutch auction or a clearing price Dutch auction. Some
Yep.
auctions that are like this, the price starts declining. In this case, it'll start at 3 ETH. That what you bid is what you pay. For example, Rare Pass was like that. This is a more typical clearing price Dutch auction, which means people start bidding, and once 669 people have bid, whatever that price is, everybody gets that, and you're refunded if you paid. So those are the
That's right.
basics. Di, did I miss anything? Just so we can dig in. But I want people to know like the mechanics and what to expect. And it'll be on artblocks.io 5:30.
No, that's it, really. Yeah, I think the biggest other parts are that it's fully fuckable and fully clickable. It's an interactive piece. I mean, like, dude, I'm not.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna
no,
dig into
you
all the details of it.
no,
I want to hear all
you
that.
covered the details. You covered the details beautifully, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's like, yeah, let's. I think we just start chopping away and start
Yeah.
really
Oh,
peeling back
actually,
the scab on this
yeah,
one.
we'll get first. So now we know what it is. I
Yep.
think one of the most beautiful things is how did this come to be, Di? Like
Mm,
it feels to me
it's a long.
starting with the fuckable flea market and so on. But why don't you say, let's share how this project and one of the things as I posted is I want people to think about this in the following terms. And these are my words, not Di's. Basically, 10 years of Di's work, of which some is like honestly incorporated to this. 1 year
It is.
in the making, 6 months fully dedicated to this project. Di sold one of one through AOTM, which he had made prior to this 6 month period. So this motherfucker been took 6 months, half a year of his fucking life on this. And including moving to Marfa without his incredible, unlike most people who are married, me included twice, who would view this as a vacation, like, great, I'm away from my wife. Di's wife is as lovely or even more lovely as him. So I know I
She
say he
is.
moved
She
4
is.
weeks away and he's not a guy who is, so this has been the level of commitment and dedication to this project. I just want it. We're going to go through it today, but it has to be super clear how much of his life this motherfucker gave to this. So with that, how did this
Thanks,
come to
man.
be?
I appreciate that. Yeah, dude. It's well, it feels so weird to be submerged in something for so long because you do start like fucking losing yourself within the pixels and the pros and like the words you've crafted. And then this fucking desert sun that's slowly rotting my brain out here has been phenomenal. But yeah, it's funny, man. Like it's been so yeah, last September the is I think many people have heard this, but for those of you who haven't, Transient Labs, fucking rad group over there, Chris and Marco and Ben and shit, had hit me up to do an installation, a glitch at the time. So I just said like, the most logical thing is creating a fuckable flea market. Like that's just logic. It's just a no brainer, must do for an installation. So dressed up like Rick from Pawn Stars, pretty much ended
Wait,
up turning into
me,
an open
Chris,
air.
and Daniel Feinstein helped you assemble
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
the
Yeah.
fucking
So we
glory
were on the
hole.
hunt. Yeah, so the keystone to the whole piece was that we were missing a glory hole for people to reach into. It was fully lubed up. We put KY all over the hole itself, and people had to reach into it to see if they had won a beef brothco that was hanging on the wall. And So yeah, it was nuts, and it was like it turned into an open air drug market pretty much. Like people would come in, they were trading like fucking anything. There was like somebody had brought in like a clip of
Yeah,
ammunition that they
they're like
traded for like a
AK-47
Tiffany's
ammo. Yeah.
truck nuts. Yeah, yeah, I'm like, it's insane. Somebody came in sprinting with a stump, like a huge tree stump that weighed like 200 pounds over their head, and I thought I was just gonna get fucking squashed. But coming back from that, so like that whole thing happened, Beef Broth Co's happened, and it was this kind of like really big moment for me as an artist where I kind of like started like realizing in some ways that I was having like an impact on people, like where I'm like, holy fuck, dude, like like I think I may have like created, like a hopefully like a cherishable memory for some of these folks, and so like when we were driving back through the Marfa Desert, I was like getting super fucking emotional because like when you have your head so far down in our shit stream of like, content create, it's like just like you're in Twitter and like, you never pull your head up for air. You're just suffocating all the time. You don't have those, and you talked about this yesterday on your pod where it's like those very human moments where it's like, holy shit, dude, like there's this connectivity between all of us and this tissue that kind of holds us all together. It's this really beautiful thing. But um I was kind of thinking like, man, that's crazy. Like, I'll probably never go to Marfa again. Like, I guess, that probably is one and done. I couldn't, I mean, I loved the time here, but it's a fucking hassle to get to. It's a huge trek. But then in Miami, Derek and Madison, who own Glitch, the sweetest, and sweetest folks ever. They're like just the absolute best partners I could ask for. They just reached out and said, hey, would you want to spend a month there creating something that you've never done before? And I said, fuck yeah, put me out there. Let's do this thing. So after that moment, it was kind of off to the races where I said like, what do I want to explore? What is something substantial enough that I can dig into that is going to be like the most brutal fucking project that I've made up to this date? That's literally taken like a full fucking piece of me and inserted it into this shit, like 10 years of memories and 10 years of inconsequence, and build something that like hopefully will outlive me. And it came up with this because it's like it's my 10-year anniversary at my 9 to 5 job as well. So I work this fucking job, this 9 to 5 job that I think most of us work, and most of us are like prescribed to die at pretty much, And so like I always think about this analogy where it's like we're all just we're all just sitting there melting away, waiting to become lubricant for the next sorry fuck to take our place in like this ergonomical desk chair. And so like I started becoming obsessed with that. And I presented the idea to Madison and Derek, and they were like, dude, this is incredible. Let's do this shit. So after that, it was just a kind of just sprint, a wind sprint, a duster huffing wind sprint to the finish line. And it's been nuts, dude. It's been a crazy fucking 6 months. And like my month out here has been nuts too. So it's been super fun, super cool. Painted a bunch of watercolors, and I think the biggest or the really cool part about this too is that like, and we'll get into this a little bit further, but I worked with this rad creative coder named Sydney Parks, who's just like a genius. She's a fucking genius coder, and she really helped bring parts of this vision to life. Like part of it is completely hand done and completely like painstakingly created like these like 669 dismantled figures. Then the other part, she helped realize my vision for the other like generative parts that we'll talk about in a little bit. But dude, it's been a wild fucking run, man. I appreciate the tea up there.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things is like Nameless Dread is such an amazing title. And
Yeah.
before we dig into your work, I think one of the things, um, and I'll get to asking you about this, but uh like one of the most beautiful things about your work is that it both condemns and like says the sort of tragedy and horror of experience of
Yeah.
overconsumption of this. Like you said, I think when we were talking, just sitting in front of the computer suffering until you like melt away and somebody else takes your place. And um you know, this concept that you've explored in all your works, Dive, for those who don't
Hmm.
know, has 4 novels, 2 poetry books, which we'll get into how those come in. But you say this is the culmination of 10 years work. When you look at your work, what do you think sort of thematically, or how would you characterize like it feels like you have to like expulse work at a rapid rate, like every day.
Yeah.
How do you think about your work. Like I said, one part of it is condemning what we do, but at the flip side, there's a love and an adoration. I think that's what people connect with.
Mhm.
It's a very difficult thing. It's really easy to be a lover. It's really easy to be a hater.
Yep.
It's very difficult to satirize, like, hey, this is tragic and destroying us and this meaningless life and all this overconsumption. Yet at the same time, celebrate the brands and the experiences that bring us together. And when me and Jack were talking, Jack does it a different way. I think you have this incredible way
He
of,
does.
yeah, without there's a certain level of like grotesque horrendousness to your pieces, yet nothing gimmicky, like no
Yeah.
criticism by using something like
Y
that's just pure shock and awe. So I
Yep.
want to, when you are making your pieces, are you feeling those emotions? Are you intentionally do it? Like, let's go back. We'll dig into this. We've talked about this now for a while. Is you wake up in the morning and when you would go to make art, I know you do it for a living as well, but what do you just like have to get this out of you? Are you thinking of like, yo, I hate this thing and I need to show that I love this thing? What walk us through the process of from start to finish, you kind of conceive, and we'll get to how it applies to these 669 101s.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
let's step back,
Yeah.
because I do think like one of the things we talked about coming in is often people can dismiss work because they're like, oh well, Die produces so much, you know, it must be easy for him, or this must have been easy. And having been next to you for many years now, I know how much you've given to this. And
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen
for
like
sure.
firsthand how much. So let's start with your typical works, and then we'll switch gear and get to this. But I think to set it up better, let's talk about like and you've said in RDs, you made the point like 5 or 10 years ago, even getting people to look at your work. So let's go through how you approach the work prior to
Yeah.
this typically.
Yeah, man. Like it's like I approach this shit as though I want to submerge and suffocate and pulverize people with it, really. Like it's one cohesive story, and like I want the people who are viewing it and like the people who are appreciating it or being disgusted by it or horrified by it to be so far submerged into like my distorted and mad world that the only way out is through, like there's no looking away. It's just like I have to fucking stare at this thing and endure it more or less, is the way I look at it. So like the things that I create are all like parts of that exploration of madness and absurdity, and like hopefully helping people share in like what they might like, feel those same ways. Like it's been so funny, and it's always like it makes me so fucking happy when, and you probably have this too, like when somebody either like remixes your piece or like they'll have like a fucking killer comment that's like a joke where they're talking about like, fucking a Four Loco can, or like, they had like they had some similar experience growing up wearing those fucking shoes that you can grind on rails with those soaps, or like, there's just when those comments start to come out and people are like retweeting your shit with like, the little splice of madness that they've indulged in by looking at it and being able to like further, whatever that moment is for them, the happiness, the sadness, just that memory that has been triggered there. Like that's ultimately what I love the most, and what I try to do. But with the art itself, yeah, it is like wake up, uh, put on a little makeup, that song. But um, but yeah, but really, it's like waking up, and like just figuring out what part of our kind of depraved universe I want to explore, what part I want
Yeah.
to like, yeah, exaggerate, make insane, and like shit that just makes me laugh. Really, it's like what do I find fucking funny about this? And like, I think to your point earlier, it's like there's certainly like satirizing things about it, but like there is a true love there for our fast casual happiness and our consumptive nature, because like without it none of us would be here. I wouldn't be talking to you. I know I wouldn't have found anybody to like share like my perspective with, who shares that similar perspective. So like there's really really beautiful parts of it, but I think the other part that I like to do within the pieces, and there are ones that are really really fucking sad, but through the brutality and through like the way that I portray those things, like what I hope to do is like disarm people in that sadness and like think that it's like funny too. You know what I mean? Like, because there's
Yeah.
always fucking sad art. There's like, you can paint somebody dying every fucking day, and it's sad, and it can be beautiful in some ways, but, like, if we can't laugh at, like, our own stupid existence, then, like, we're missing out on a huge part of just being human, and so I think it makes it a lot more, like, it just makes it more bearable to exist if you can just get
Yeah,
greasy and shitty all over everything. That's like for me at least. Like it's like if everything is shitty and greasy and like stupid as fuck, it's easier for me to live because I don't have to like take things so seriously and like just feel like the kind of the nameless dread that we were
right.
talking about. Like I think it helps euthanize that feeling of like just being fucking sick every day, waking up and being like, God damn, dude, I don't know why. I just feel like fucking shit, you know? Like, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's, one of the things I often like to do is try to we've talked about this is like what 5 words most characterize or simplify like what an artist does. And obviously that's a gross oversimplification, but if I look at your work, there's always like a brand in there. There's like a human figure as meat. There's distortion. What other words come to
Yeah.
mind when you look at your work that you'd say, "Hey, if I use these 5 words, it would define the ultimate die work."
Yeah, like, I think that the term that I always describe and it's been funny, dude, because, like, we talked a little bit about this on the RD show, but it's like, I think that, we talk a lot and, like, you get used to being on camera, you get used to fucking talking, like, I was, like, terrible at public speaking, I probably still am, but the thing that I've learned out here at this gallery that's been super crazy, like, is, like, getting a little bit more confidence in talking about the work itself, because random people will come in. There was, like, a 90-year-old woman who came in the other day and was just, like, looking at a piece where, like, a robot is fucking the shit out of a guy in a butterfly fuck swing. Like, and she's just, like she's staring at it and, like, I have to feel compelled to, like, explain it so she like gets it a little bit more, and she
What'd you
was just
tell
kind
her?
of looking at it, and I
You're like, "What are you
so
doing,
it's funny
lady?"
yeah, right. Well, it's funny that you asked. It's funny that you asked what words to describe it because, like, getting back around to that question, like the number one word I would use is relentless, and that's just it. Like
Yeah,
everything about it is relentless and to the fucking brink and to the limits on both like what people can endure without getting physically ill, with what people can read, with like the way that again they plunge into this world. Like that's the number one term I use, and like I talked to her about that. She's like, "Well, what is it about this?" And I said, "Like, look, there's a relentless nature to this." I keep looking back and like looking at the piece. I said, "Like, there's a relentlessness to this, in an urgency that I have to like communicate that like my vision of what I'm seeing in my head, what I see in the world, and like these like stories that I'm telling that I find in every kind of nook and cranny of the sagging ass of fucking America." And sorry, I keep swatting, dude. There's a fly like almost poetically, there's a fly
yeah,
infestation here at the
fly.
gallery, so it's
Circling
fucking
your meat,
awesome, dude. Yeah,
circling good
that's
meat,
what I'm
rotting
saying.
meat.
They're rubbing
Yeah.
their shit. They're rubbing their shit fingers on my deteriorating soul here. Um, but yeah, relentless
Yeah,
and
relentless
and
is, I
that's
would
like
say, and
yeah,
relentless and prolific and like, just can't stop, unrelenting, fucking I agree with that.
yeah. That's what it is, and, like, I think that it's funny, man, we all have mechanisms for, I think, dealing with, like, anxiety and shit, like, we talked about this, you have anxiety as well, and, like, that's my main thing to deal with my shit, dude, and it's probably not the healthiest thing, like, really, but it's, like, when I'm
I
creating
can
and
think
when
of
I'm,
less
like, just
healthy
spewing
stuff,
I could think of less selfish shit,
so
but when I'm creating and spewing this stuff out, like I feel better, like I just feel better about shit. So like I just keep doing it, and that's like part of I think the onslaught that like I've been able to kind of like pace out. But yeah,
So let's take a bit more. I think that's a wonderful segue. And and Dye creates a lot of work, but does not mint much. And I think it's an
yeah,
incredible we talk about it, and I was watching some highlights of Dye, and a lot of the time, Dye, you're hammering on this, which I think is something important. So let's turn to the specifics of this. Why don't you review how these are, you know, each one of ones that you drew. Let's go
let's do
through
it.
the unique
Let's
outputs, the
fucking do it.
visual plus the text.
I'd
Let's
love
talk
to,
about
man. Yeah,
talk about
yeah.
how you
That's it.
pulled
That. Thank you.
poetry, and so let's riff on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it, dude, because I know that we only have a little time here, and like it is so
Why do
like
you have to jump?
trying to
I
even
think
just
how much
no,
more
I
time do
got
you
an hour.
okay, good, good,
I
good.
got an
I
hour.
think it's gonna
Yeah,
take
I'll give
longer
you
than
the
we
part
thought.
two.
It's good though.
Yeah,
It's
for
good.
sure.
Yeah, hit
Um,
it.
yes, yeah. So, dude, like the kind of the expansiveness of this project, like it's funny, man. Like you had said, like 10 years, like 6 months, and like when you see that shit on paper, it's just like, what the fuck am I doing, dude? Like there's certainly like an existential nature in that where it's like, Jesus Christ, I spent this much time fucking making this, like what the fuck? But essentially, yeah, like when I sat down to do this, I said like, look, there has to be generative components because like the way that we are receiving our digital suffering on a daily basis isn't ultimately oftentimes decided by us. It's meeting requests that we get, it's fucking people in DMs demanding stuff. It's this endless, like listless transactional state we're in that we have no fucking control over. So the part that I wanted to replicate by having the project be generative is that it's like the
Yeah, the
computer is
computer is
deciding
the
for
source.
you.
It's like the hub
Yeah,
of this game that you wake up and we all sit in front of that screen.
yeah.
That's where it
So I
starts.
wanted it exactly. So I wanted everyone to have their own unique slice dictated to them where it says this is an art piece, but it's the fucking dread you feel, and it's dictated by the blue light that you stare into, and that your detaching retinas are fucking dying in front of. Um, but on top of that, like we talked about earlier, I'm like a fucking human generative machine, dude. Like I create so much shit. And so I wanted to explore
And I think
that
wait,
too. And
before
I'm
you
like,
move off that, that's you and I were talking, it was like we were joking. I'm saying like
oh
you're
yeah.
basically like like a human AI, like all day you're just putting output out based on commentary. And I think that's like a kind of an interesting parallel is like, some
Yeah.
artists it takes them forever to make one piece. And not that it doesn't take you, but you're literally like the equivalent of like a human, I mean, not to mid journey in a way. So I think that's another ironic piece of this. Nameless dread is us sitting in front of a computer, the source of our dread, you using generative, which is sort of I mean, generative's been around for a while, so I again recognize the history. But generative, in some ways, is like the ultimate generative and AI are like sort of more pure computer related art. And you yourself produce art as if you're like a prompt
Yeah.
based generative AI, AI. So I just think that's a really sort of subtle and cool point that makes this even extra
Thanks,
cool. But
dude.
go ahead.
No, it's funny because it's a combination of digital suffering and human suffering, right? So it's like the memories that I've had and that I feel like I've bled out in creating like the inconsequence I did for 10 years. And so a lot of the portraits that I drew were like colleagues that I knew who had, gotten fired or just like simply stopped existing. Like the people would just come and go and you could never really tell who was in any meeting or not in any meeting. And everything really just started to bleed together into this like sickening mass of like strange corporate efficiency. And like I think that like that's happening everywhere, right? Like I feel like everything fucking turns into to work eventually. I really wanted to like plunge into that world. So I said like I'm doing 669 of these things. I want them to all be unique. I want them to all be in varying states of like of suffering or decay or dismantle. Like there's a bunch that are made like not to give away too much, but like there's ones that are like there's categories for like active suffering where the person is like having their
Can you
has
review some of
happily
the
butchered.
as you talk about it?
Yeah, let's get into it, dude. Yeah, so like there's categories for like active suffering where somebody has like butchered their own hand happily and like they're like if for efficiency's sake they said like all right maybe this will make me a better colleague and they just fucking chop their hand off. So that's in there. There's passive suffering where the person is like laying in a hospital bed weeping and like but nobody really cares. They're just behind this Zoom lens. There's like
Yeah, or
autoerotic
media
asphyxiation. There's meat grind. There's so much shit. So like I
go
explored
over them.
all these fucking things.
Grinding, what
Yeah,
other you said there are
a couple.
six general categories of suffering, right? Is that
Yeah, there's orgies. There's orgies happening in some of them. Office orgies. There's fucking county fair slaughters. There's heads in goldfish bag. I mean, there's just dude. There's so many. It's just like it's too much to even describe. But the 669 span across like every possible emotion that I feel like I went through over the 10 years. And I think that every single emotion we all go through on a daily basis. Like you have these momentary feelings of like salvation, or that like somehow you're doing something that's going to outlast you and like add to whatever kind of legacy that you're pointlessly trying to build, I guess. And then other days, yeah, you fully submit and fully succumb to that sickening feeling we all have. And so like I really wanted to capture the entire scale, so there's like this huge array of like feelings and emotions that people can indulge in, and again have their own like singular slice of dread that hopefully they find relatable to, is what the try was on the those would be the 669 characters. And then like we can get into all the other shit in a second here,
Well,
but
I
yeah,
was
so
gonna say,
that's
so
like
the
the
other
span of
piece
it.
of it that's unique is that it's not just visual outputs, there's text. And again, we talked about how this is the culmination of Die's work. Half of the text is from Dai went back through his poetry books that he has 2 of, as I said, and he
Yep.
selected passages that were the like meaningful looking back at that 10 years. So half of the passages connect to his old and half are new. And so let's talk
Yep.
about, it's very rare again. You have a generative piece that has starts like a hand drawn, not all
Yep.
painted in Procreate. Then you do long form generative, and then you have the text piece. So let's talk about the text piece, how you approached it, how
Let's
it
do it.
ties to your history, and how it's created by piece, and so on.
Yeah, that's a great call, man. So like the text in it, I love that you brought that up, and like it really was important for me to explore like things that I had written in the past. So like it's funny, dude, at this job, I would just sit there on days and I would be so miserable that like I would have like a little notepad up like hidden in the corner of my screen. I wrote a fucking 80,000 word book there, dude. Like I wrote my first novel at this job because like it
Well, you
because
better
there
hope
were
your boss
days where I was just so yeah, no, right? Shit, man, I hope not. But no, it's funny. So like I wanted to take
So on a little
those
pad
things.
in the corner of the screen, it is
Yep.
amazing. I had this job once working at a Costco aisle back in the day, and I taught myself to read. I'd hold the book because I was like standing in the aisle, and I
Oh,
would hold the
right,
book
right.
out
So you're
here,
like,
and I taught myself to read, like slide and then
oh
slide the
man,
book in. It's amazing the kind of shit and jobs you do. So you
it's like,
had your screen up,
y-
you're making art for a job as well, and in the corner you're just hammering on a fucking novel.
yeah, pretty much, dude. Yeah, and so like, and it's funny, man. Like, in I sometimes miss those moments that because like we were ordered to work from home, and like oddly, I found the office environment a very inspiring place, at least for sadness, because like you're under these dying fluorescent lights. Someone's microwaving a fucking crab cake in the microwave that smells like shit. People are eating out of plastic tins that fucking. It's just like it's so sad. There's just so much sadness there, and so like I would just sit there and like almost
That
just be
smelly
fucking on the
Mike shit
verge of
is so
tears.
true. It's
The
so
smelly
funny.
mic shit, right? So so yeah, like
Oh,
I did feel like it was really important to go back through the 10 years of that and like pull things from that time in my life to put into this project, and then also write new things that were that I've written over the past 3 or 4 years while being in the space, because like they're such vastly different times in my life, but I think that they also again capture like the overall feeling, hopefully, of many people and what we go through on a day-to-day basis. Like I think that like the old stuff holds a certain place, and the new stuff does as well, and like both of those things just had to be portrayed because like it's been such a long time creating shit. And we talked about this, but creating things that nobody fucking wanted, like just no one would read like a 3 sentence poem, let alone like a fucking book. So I think that like in many ways this like there's this part of me in these pieces where like it's an acceptance of no one ever reading anything ever. That's it. And then there's this other part of me that's like a celebration of people who finally like did find something in it, and like the happiness that I found in somebody else finding something in that poetry.
yeah, and you often talk about a dream of
So
like 50 years from now, like a college kid reads it. And
yeah,
now the
yeah,
text, let's
yeah,
be specific. So the text, how did you get the text in the piece? And the text is not generative. It's you wrote
yep,
it and then assigned it, as opposed to
that's
like
right.
training machine learning and having it spit out die like comments. So how
Yeah,
did you
dude.
what was the process of matching piece and text?
Yeah, well, I loved it because that was an option that I had considered. It really was. I was like, well, maybe this is my first like go into, training and model to try to write like me or something. And then I was just like, dude, and there's no shade on anybody who uses those things to like help and enhance their writing because I know that like writing is tough. Like it's taken a lifetime to figure out how to like write like I do and like a very particular way. And so I felt like, by doing that, it really, like, there was an absentness to, like, the humanness of it, like, in an absentness of myself, and I'm like, "Dude, this just, like, it doesn't feel right at all,"
Felt
you know? And
soulless,
so it felt
like
soulless, so I
soulless.
was like, I really
Felt like
exactly, so
words
I'm
put
like, I really
together rather than yeah.
yeah. So I went back through and I was like, it's gonna be rough because well, and it was actually and I thought it was gonna be rough and it ended up being really enjoyable going back through 10 years of writing and like selecting the things that I knew would fit within the piece. So like essentially people have seen the previews of it, but really it's a Zoom container that has a meeting chat, and under the meeting chat, there's a blinking cursor that will never stop blinking for as long as this thing fucking lives. It says "exist to submit," which is something I'm obsessed with, like a phrase that I don't know if I can. I probably have not come up with it. I probably read it somewhere,
Exists
but
to submit.
um, yeah. And so like within that chat box are these like haunting poetry prose that exist within there. And so people like are each assigned these things. I think there's
Did
300.
you
I
did
think
you
I think we got it.
sorry to push, but did you look at a piece and then select the text, like, or was how were they
No,
matched? That was part
so
of the
that part is fully random. That part is like that's a generative selection. So there is like a huge spreadsheet of these things, and then the system says like, okay, like just pick a random thing out of that spreadsheet and assign it.
right.
So
So
that's the
Mitch
other.
Smith long form takes your base piece, puts long form generative that you worked on with. I
Yep.
apologize, I didn't catch the
Sydney
poet.
Parks, yeah, she's incredible. Yep.
Sydney. So Sydney helped face that. Then it pulls from and attaches the words, which in and of itself, I guess that's actually will be really interesting to see what comes out together.
I know, dude. I'm
Yeah.
super stoked because, like, because there's gonna be ones that there's some poems that are really happy, like they're like exploring some happiness and stuff, and then the piece itself is like insanely sad. One sec, this dude trying to get into the gallery. This is classic. I'm just gonna let him in and then keep talking. And then there's pieces that are like crazy sad that like the happy poems. How's it going? You can come in. Oh yeah, come on, take a look around. I'm just on a call right now, but yeah. Um, so there's pieces that are
Just always Sotheby's right now.
right for sure.
I have Christie's on
No,
hold. Just I'll be right back.
yeah, no worries. Right, right. Yeah, I should have said it, dude. I should have done it. 1 second.
Yeah,
Um,
1 second.
but so
Sorry.
yeah,
Somebody
it'll
just
be
offered
incredible.
1.7 million. Yeah.
Right, right. Are you gonna match?
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
you into NFTs? Are you
Yeah.
gonna show?
Don't never say
That's
NFTs.
right. So it's
You
gonna
just
be
took
really
like three
funny to
zeros
see.
off the price when you say NFT.
Right. I fucked myself. God damn it.
Yeah, way to
Um,
go.
but the yeah, it's going to be really funny to see how they're assigned. I think that's going to be the beauty of it because it'll be like something either really happy or really sad, and then like on the other side of that thing, the person could be dying slowly. They could be doing any number of like kind of things. And again, that's why I really wanted the computer to decide that because like it just didn't feel like it was for me to decide. I want it to like shove people into these meetings and like almost I don't know, dude. Is there a potential just like energetic shift in that thing where it senses who's minting it and assigns them like what it feels like they need at the time? I don't know. Maybe fuck it.
Bro,
Let's why not? Why not
old
speculate on that?
I always joke like old me would kick the shit out of new me, but I
Right.
because of like all this like, Cali, like I every day get more and more evidence that what you just said is the case, man. That
That's what I'm thinking. Right.
we're a tiny vessel for the particles that appeared with the Big Bang. When we're gone, they'll return to space until the end of the
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
And we briefly have them for a moment, and we have all
Yep.
that matters. It's very easy. Nameless Dread, I've been reflecting on the last few days since we've talked about it. And I actually think it's one of the like I love all your titles. There's certain artists who do incredible titles. You and
Yeah.
ACA was Many, I think titles are so important.
Thanks for coming
This
in.
concept,
Yeah, cheers.
Schlocky
No, go
art
for it. I'm
pieces.
sorry.
No, I
Yeah.
love it. Nameless Dread is such an incredible name and captures it. But you're right. I do think there's the solution to Nameless Dread is faith. Faith that
Yeah.
something bigger than ourselves is at work, and there's nothing to feel
Yeah.
scared of,
Agreed.
whether it's religion or not. But
Eh,
that whatever happens, even if it's seemingly terrible and you're destroyed and your whole body rots away, like it's going to happen. But that
Yeah.
actually the biggest solution to Nameless Dread is exactly what you said. So I think a beautiful way to think about this general thing
Hmm.
is, hey, it'll serve up. You are suffering nameless dread. You are going to bid for one of my art pieces, and out will come with the magic of a fucking algorithm, a combination of something, and it will serve you to address this nameless dread. And so I
That's what
actually think that's a
I love
beautiful
that,
thing.
man. Well, that was a
I
beautiful
want to
way of putting it, dude. I mean, that was great. Yeah, thank you for that. That's like I need to get that. I'm getting that as a back tat, dude. That was fucking awesome. Seriously, that was a really
that's
beautiful
right.
way to put it.
I
And
thought,
like
yeah, I thought you told
I
RD
do
you were getting a different back tat. You have to go over that shit.
I'm like, dude,
Blast over.
I gotta get a full piece. I'm going full piece, dude. Like just the whole thing is just gonna be
You
covered
have
in
any, you don't have
quotes
any
about
tats,
this
do you?
project.
Do you have any tats?
I have one. I have one that I got, dude. It's interesting that you asked this because, like, what was it so in college, like 2006, I read this book or I read the short story, "The Cares of a Family Man" by Kafka. It's only like 3 paragraphs long, and and honestly, like people should read that. Like, it really relates to this project as well because,
Who
um,
cares? Family
in the book
man.
itself, yeah, The Cares of a Family Man. In the book itself, there's this creature named Odradek in it. It's this tiny star creature that like tumbles around this guy's house and it has no perceivable purpose in life, but like the guy knows it's going to outlive him for some reason. He gets like fucking pissed because he's like, why is this thing that has no purpose going to outlive me? Like what's the deal with that? And it's like you can't even really ask that because what is purpose and like how and like why is that creature's you know perceived purpose any more or less great than yours is, so it was this like really deep dive on like the inconsequence that I'm obsessed with and like legacy and the definition of legacy and the pointlessness of like of obsessing over something like that. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier about like the energetic thing. It's like in the end, dude, it's just like shit's gonna happen. Like the things that are gonna happen. And like, you take that in stride and you do what you can with it. You use it for like what you can use it for, like there's always gonna be sad shit or happy shit. And as long as you can funnel that into something, like I think that you're doing all right.
Yeah, and I think I used to have problems with the concept of faith when I was young. I was like, well, you tell me there's some dude up there on a fucking in the sky, like making. I actually think of it very differently now.
Yeah.
What I think is like, you know, I have beehives and I watch the bees a lot, and people use expressions about bees a lot, but like, look, we don't. I actually think even discussing purpose in an odd way, if there's this giant universe and we're one tiny piece of it, the idea that we could know with our tiny little fucking
Right.
meat, this skeleton with meat and like some tiny fucking thing, have any conception of what our role and purpose was. It's actually freeing. Again, I think a lot of this stuff people think when I'm like, oh, you don't matter, we don't matter. But in a way, it's the most freeing thing. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, don't take yourself so seriously, bro. Like, I'm not saying so.
Right.
Be cool and do cool shit. Don't harm other people. You don't even know what you're here for. The only thing that I've ever I took all these science of happiness classes because I'm like, oh, I'm fucking unhappy. Like, let me study how to be happy.
This'll work, right? This'll work.
Yeah, and of course, like happiness is one of those things. Like, the more you try to be happy, like the less happy you're gonna be. But
For sure.
I actually just think like we're given three ways in the world: head, heart, soul. And all you can hope for, and again, this like tying it back to name the nameless dread comes from when your soul is not in contact and you're like, my head and heart are telling me I'm like doing all this shit that I'm supposed to be doing. Like, why the fuck aren't I happy? I'm like doing everything
Yeah.
I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
the only place where nameless dread and connection is solved is if you can open your soul, which is not an easy thing to do. It took me fucking most of my life until about
Mhm.
4 years ago, and feel your soul will tell you like if you are doing the right thing and if you are connected. Um,
No, that makes sense, dude. Fuck yeah.
a lot
And it's like worrying about stuff that's like in the future or past. It's like, you know, as long like you said, if you can just if you can just impact somebody in the moment, and I think that that's another reason why I create so much is like if you can give somebody like a reprieve for a minute or 5 minutes in a day, it's like it's so nice. Like I know I feel that way. Like if I look at a piece that impacts me or that like
it
pulls
makes
me
you look
out
at
of like
stuff
whatever I'm thinking
differently.
about, it makes a huge difference, dude. Or like talking to somebody for like 5 minutes or something that like, you know, tells you that your art somehow impacted them. Or that's why I'm like, whenever anybody reaches out or like does anything, or like, you know, if or if someone's nervous about reaching out or talking or whatever, it's like, dude, like we all want to hear it. Anybody who's out there wants to hear that, like, you know, that like your art or like your writing or just your overall being is having like a positive impact or some type of impact, hopefully not negative, on somebody. It's like the best thing you can possibly hear, and it does really pull you out of that like that perpetual dread that we're
Yeah.
discussing for sure.
Yeah, and last point, and I'll dig back in is
Yeah,
I also think those moments of pain where everything is happening that feel the worst are actually the moments that, like, in hindsight, turned you into the person you are. And so these
yeah,
look at what like die wrestling, a lot of artists I speak to and myself, like have there's almost a curse. Like I call it sometimes it's probably like easier to not even be aware, to be like strolling through life, like in the matrix, da 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 da. Once you're sort of out of the matrix, it's brutal, right? Because you like get all
yeah,
these fucking realizations and see. And so I do think another thing to remember is like those times we've all had them, some worse than others, where it's savage. You're in like you said, you're in the office, and you could be anything from terrible tragedy, just name like the daily day. Those are the things, and those feelings are what compel you to be able to connect and grow. So,
agreed. Hell yeah.
look, this, it was so amazing to be with you and Marfa, and that, when Beef Brothco was launched, and obviously, like, look, we often talk about art. And it's funny, this $12 million stuff shark I've been reading, they're like, the higher you go up in art, the worse, like the more like you never talk about price or list price.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, however, we live with a bunch of these degens and a bunch of degens who like missed Beef Brothco. I remember I told Uncle Petty Bags, who then
Well,
like
we were there. It was so
we
like
were
it was too
impressed.
crazy to even fucking mint. Yeah, like
Yeah, I mean, I did get 10. Thankfully, I should
you
mention
got
that.
10. Oh, nice,
I mean, I
dude.
have the same 10 I minted. Yeah, I minted 10.
That's nuts,
Yeah,
man. Super Rare Zach was kind enough to send me one, and Sunday Funday sent me one too. Because dude, I left and I didn't have a single
yeah,
one, and then they were like in an ETH. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So they went from point
point zero
oh
zero.
three 0.0369 to like
Point zero
to an
zero three six nine. They were under point zero 0.01, I thought.
yeah, they may have been, dude. I gotta look it up. I
I'm telling
forget,
you, it
but they
was like
fucking went nuts. Yeah,
0.0069.
right. Something insane. Yeah, yeah,
So a lot of people are going to look at this. So now I'm lucky enough I have some die, but I'm a dude or a like person, sorry. Somebody comes along, they're like, "Oh fuck, I want a die." There's beef broth, there's a bunch of other stuff in your ecosystem, but beef broth go obviously one of your defining collections. So I come to look and I'm like, "Yo, I could buy a beef broth co." And we talked about this, but why do I want a nameless dread? Like, hey,
yeah,
should I, like, not obviously you want all your work, but let's be realistic. Beef
yeah.
Brothco was born out of Glitch Marfa, not a Glitch Marfa project. For those of you who haven't been to Marfa, firstly, whoever was in charge of marketing for Marfa is the biggest fucking genius in the world, because it's like a double
It's in the
connecting
middle of
flight.
nowhere.
You have to land like near Juarez. There's like a rule, I guess, in America. Like if you're within 50 miles of the Mexican border, like the patrol people can pull you over. My
Yeah.
experience is like OSF was training for his fight. He's driving. We get like pulled over
Oh
by cops on the
no.
way there. He didn't have his fucking papers. I thought he was
Oh
gonna get cuffed and stuff. There's like a dog and shit. Anyways, you have to like it takes like a whole fucking day to get there. And it's just like in the middle of Texas and it has a fake Prada store that doesn't sell anything. And so a dumb fuck like me is like, why the fuck don't they just put it somewhere with a direct flight? Obviously that removal like helps you be in it together, but the at least Art Blocks conference there's like two buildings. That's it. There's like Art Blocks and Glitch Marfa. Glitch Marfa didn't sponsor Die's prior drop, but Beef Brothco was in the Glitch Marfa, and it's like right there. And it was loud as fuck. I could last like 10 minutes. It was so loud.
It was
But
insane. Yeah.
I come along and I'm like, yo, I've been dying to get a die. Let's, again, respecting your work, but let's be realistic. A person comes and they like pull up Beef Brothco and then they pull up this. How should we think about that? And how would you compare them?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I gotta say, like, I mean, yeah, it's crazy, dude. Like, when you talk about Marfa, I think there's a marketing aspect to it for sure. But then I don't know if you felt this too, and maybe you have to be here for a minute. But there's something special about this place. I'm serious. Like,
Yeah,
it's like Snowfro talks about it too, where it's like it's a place that like embraces the peculiarity and embraces the absurd, and like so you can feel that in buildings, you can feel that in the asphalt. The people here are like so nice. It's like a place where like freaks and like weirdos and like just thrive, dude. And I love it so much because like I consider myself in that like realm of person. So it's like I've met a ton of like friends here that I've just like hung out with. And yeah, it's cool because I think Derek and Madison saw that too in this place and have this like really deep love not only for the art that's made here but also like for the place itself, and like in trusting in like the place to be this like really awesome steward for the kind of evangelization of digital art. And like what we're doing here is like a legitimate like artistry. So it's been sick, and to have them like trust me to like be a steward of that has just been incredible. So I just got to give them a quick shout. But like to your other questions, like dude, like Beef Brothcos, I love them, right? I don't I think I love everything I make, and like the Brothcos are their own thing. They're their own ecosystem. I think
And I posted some
people.
weirdness. I just
Oh,
posted
sweet.
tweets.
Yeah, nice, dude. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's like, and so like, so being out here and like just being pummeled by that, and like being able to then like create from that like constant stream of like crazed energy has been incredible. And so, the Brothcos are their own ecosystem. They're like people find what they need in their Brothco. And I love that. Like people will post like, dude, this is my Brothco. I'm holding on to this shit forever. And I think the way to look at it is like the like the culmination of this project and like the expansiveness of it is just it's different, right? Like I mean, I think you look at the time it took,
Right.
and again, and like
This stands based on the foundation of this is like everything in your other work, including half the poetry came in.
yeah,
Rothko
exactly. And
obviously
like
like resulted from your skills, but it's a collective
yeah.
that is around a concept as
Yeah,
opposed
for sure. That's a great way to put it. And like I hate using the word time because like it's just like there's something so beautiful could be made in 5 minutes, and it's like I think that's a really bullshit way to like go about describing the like an artistic practice. So I would eliminate the time from it and just say like the overall hulking fucking like uh like discovery of like sheer volume of stuff and expansiveness of like the project itself, that like every one of these pieces is its own fucking entire world and universe. Like I almost think about it like it's damn near like a video game, like you get thrust into these meeting containers that have like so many different interactive components to them. They've got like poetry, and I really love that combination of a bunch of different artistic practices too. So like those all come in marriage. In the marriage of those is also like something that I feel like is really beautiful and something that like I've never done before. Certainly, like I always try to marry my poetry and prose with the images, but like in terms of having again like the long form portion of that thing to like also be spitting these outputs out that we have no idea what they're going to look like. It's a really really beautiful process that I'm just like super stoked about. Like both projects I I fucking love dearly. Like I do. I truly love everything I make. Because I and that goes back to the earlier part you said, like the stuff creation and minting and stuff. It's like, unless I really believe that like that thing is important enough to like be within, the canon of like my work that's like on, minted on chain, then like I'm not gonna mint it. Like this is something that I just like had to get out and I just fucking believe in more than anything. So like it's funny, dude. Like you put so much of your life into something, and Laura and I talked about this. It's like regardless of outcome of whatever happens with this project, like I hope it does well. But it was something that I had to make, and that I felt like that it needed to be explored for a larger like scale of people, and like in terms of like relatability, in terms of like us all kind of feeling this certain way. And so no matter what happens, dude, like I think I've created something that's like really fucking special, and like I'm so proud of it that like I'm just like I finally have come to this piece where it's just like, yeah, like it's just this thing that existed, that only could have existed in my mind, and only could have existed like without the help of Sydney and Laura and Derek and Madison. It's like we all kind of just came together and built this thing that it's just a fucking beast of a project, dude. Like I can't describe it any other further than that. It's wild how nuts it is. Like, yeah.
Before we wrap up, one of the things I think a lot about on these shows is like how can we connect with the lovely people who are like willing to spend their time to listen. We all know in this world, like most people will only like listen to 20 seconds. So I'm going to hit you with a few questions
Let's
in a
do it.
row that just come to mind. But before we do, you said you love all your old work. I had the craziest experience like when I was first getting into collecting, like real tattoo collecting, like
Yeah.
getting massive motherfucking works instead of some Superman fucking logo like a moron. Like I first did. I remember working. This is before this is how old I am. Before Instagram and all this shit, I would walk around San Francisco, and whenever I saw anyone with a great tattoo, I'd be like, "Yo, where'd you get that? Who do you think's the best tattoo artist in San Francisco?" And over they said this dude Grime. So I go to Grime, and I'm like, this is pre being taught, being humble, and like how the world really works. So I was an obnoxious like finance dude who fucking.
Oh God. Right.
And I was like, look, bro, I want you to do like it's like embarrassing. So I was like, I want this to be one of your best pieces. And he's like, bro, first off, like that's not like how I can do it. And he said, secondly, like I look back at a lot of my old work and I hate it. And I have these moments in life where I always laugh at myself, like looking back on like where I'm like, fuck you, idiot. Like, anyway, it's interesting to hear you say you love all your work. I'm no kind of artist, and so I'm not in any kind of comparable realm or like I'm like at the fringe of a universe you're at the center of. I like hate most of the shit I make and like find it terrible and like don't like most of my old raps. I was like, turn that fucking thing off, like hate it.
Right.
It's interesting to me. And when Grimes said that, he's like, look, I was like, fuck. And then now that I'm like, yo, that's real talk. Like, at least like if you're an amazing artist, in my opinion, like a third to half your work looking back, you'd probably be like, oh, fuck, I could do. So before I dig into the fast questions, help me understand, because I think it's important.
Yeah.
It's because some artists, like, again, as a collector hat now, and having curated a lot of work there, let me say this. There's a lot of incredible artists in the space who are doing cool stuff. There are millions of NFTs that have been minted, and when I curated on Foundation, they're like, look through the 255,000 pieces on here, and like,
dude.
Having said that, I was like, holy, like,
how do I do this?
Holy fuck! A lot of this shit is just pure. Like, do people think this is good? Are they like joking? Like, somebody has a like 2 ETH price on a prompt that was like their third day prompting, and they're like, so. I'm just curious before I hit you with a rapid question. Like, it's very meaningful for me to hear that you love your prior works. Some ways I'm like, fuck, I knew I sucked. Like, maybe I suck even fucking worse. Like, this clown. Like, maybe my shit's. So help me understand and help the people in the audience understand. Like, that's a really cool point, and like, it's actually beautiful if you can like help people look back and not. Help me understand that. Right. With some rapid questions.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, so it's funny, Summer Wagner and I, who you just recently bought a piece from, just like the most outstanding human being and like artist, just such a just incredible person. Her and I were talking about this a little bit, and it's like, you create fucking shitty art at the start and you create cringy shit, but like, I think there's still a love and admiration there because it's like what you needed at the time to get where you are right now. So I don't know that like I don't know that there's the same like what do you call it? Like surface level love where you say like, "Oh, this is a great piece. I was exploring something really meaningful and deep in this piece." But you look at it and you can say, "Well, shit, look at how far I've come from that piece. Look at how much I've evolved." And like, so there's a love for it because it is a ladder rung that you've just stepped on. And so like, I do try to frame it up like that. Like my writing used to be like really, really verbose. And I would like think that using a ton of adjectives was like the way to like communicate like nuanced thought. And it's just not, like you don't have to use all those fucking words. And so like when I look back on some of my early writing, I'm just like, oh, dude, like but when you look at it and you say, well, now I've carved off the fat and I've trimmed the fat and like I've like, gotten to this certain point where I feel so comfortable in my meat suit. Um, there is a certain beauty to it. Like, and I think I do truly cherish those old things because it's like, they're like old memories, man. It's like looking through. We all looked like fucking idiots in 8th grade and 7th grade, and like in high school and shit. And you probably had some frosted tips and like fucking, you're rocking like the fucking big belt buckle and shit. So like,
I did have at one point like the fucking one frosty.
so so I'm saying like you look like a fucking dumbass, but like those times were great too. Like you look back and you say like, yeah, I was probably an idiot. And, like I wasn't who I am now, but like I had some good times back then and they were meaningful to me. So like I look at my old creations that way for sure.
This is why I asked this question. This is what I'm talking about. What a you know, I've been blessed to get so close to die, and I've been blessed to be around so many great artists. But this is what I mean. Look at the depth of love and understanding that you're showing, and I think it comes through in your work. Like that exact vibe that you just shared of like, hey man, this was just a part of the process, and I love that just the way I love that I
Yeah.
was a goofy fuck or whatever. Uh, so I think that's super helpful. All right. I'm making these up, but I hopefully it sticks and we'll do another ones.
Let's do it.
Favorite music band or group?
Presidents of the United States of America.
I don't even know what the fuck that is, but okay.
They did that song Peaches, but their whole album was fucking awesome, dude. I swear they're that
Which
90s
album?
band. It's their I think it's their only one. It's self-titled. It's got these like 3 tin frogs playing on it, but they're fucking dude, they're actually really good. I actually listen to them quite a bit. Like going back to that nostalgia thing, it's like that I would say Siamese Dream is also up there by Smashing
Yeah,
Pumpkins,
that's a good
candidly.
one.
It's a fucking great album. And then I also love Clips. Hell Hath No Fury is one of my favorite
Clips the
fucking.
rapper?
That's the best.
Yeah, the rapper
Yeah, that's
Clips.
what.
Yeah, yeah, I love
Yeah,
that
put
one.
Pusha T and yeah.
What was the name of that song? That the fucking yeah, I love that album. The okay,
Oh yeah.
Nickelback, Creed. Who else did you put on that list?
Alien Ant Farm for
Oh,
sure.
yes. Okay, you're in a room
Fucking
now. You gotta pick one of those people, one of those groups, and you're stuck with them for a week. Which one and why?
oh fuck. I would go Alien Ant Farm, I think, dude, because I think Scott Stapp is probably he seems a little nuts. And then, a little Chad
Would it
Kroger.
help
It's
you walk in a room with
I'm
him
s-
being like, "I can't take it." Ah, yeah.
right. I'm saying Alien Ant Farm for that. Shout out to Grant Yoon as well, because he's one of the biggest AAF heads I've ever met in life. The dude is obsessed with that band.
Didn't they do that Smooth Criminal cover? I love that. Doo-doo-doo.
Smooth Criminal cover, dude. It was
That
fucking
was my
awesome. It
favorite.
was a
I
good
didn't hate
song.
on that.
Yeah.
I don't think you can put them
With
up there with Nickelback and Creed. That's sort of
No, you can't. Yeah,
that's like a
they're
little bit.
pretty.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Creed or okay,
You,
Creed or Nickelback. Which of those two is worse?
I go Creed. I would put Nickelback as more listenable than Creed.
By the way, there was a moment once where Die fucking hooked me, fish like hook, line, and sinker. I believed for a minute he actually liked Creed. I was like, "Come on, bro, you're like," real, and he fucking had me totally thinking he like loved it. Okay,
Dude, me and Deez are going this summer though. In actuality, we're going in August to a Creed show.
No fucking way. I almost would
Yeah,
come. Where is it?
fly in for it, dude.
Where?
It's August 9th at Ruoff Music Center in Indiana, like outside of Indy.
I'm not lying. I'm thinking I might. I'm
Dude,
just
it's gonna be hilarious. It's gonna be
endure.
super funny.
Be the
Yeah.
source of so much inspiration. Favorite fast food chain?
Ooh, I'm gonna go Culver's. Culver's boy, get that butter burger out, dude. Like that. I mean, honestly, like the
Favorite
people
fast
there are very
casual?
fast casual. Chili's 2 in the Gary, Indiana airport.
Um, Worst job you ever had?
A caddy at a golf course full of a bunch of like heartless rich fucks that would just bully the shit out of me. But I will say, also my favorite job because I would steal a bunch of beers out of the cart barn and just be hammered all day and like just go out and just destroy their shit. So that was also worst and best.
What's the nastiest thing you do for 100 grand?
Man, probably huff some jankum.
What's Jankum?
It's it's that fermented shit that people used to like. That it was like an urban legend where people were like, you can huff your own shit to get high, bro. And they were like, yeah, it's
100 grand
jankum.
for that? That seems like
I'd do it.
would
Let's
you
do it, man.
now let me ask, would you do that for $1,000?
I'd do it for 200.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Just like,
Okay. I used to say, what do you mean, man? It's like, hey, would you sleep with me for $1 million? Oh,
right.
yeah. It's like, how about for $500? It's like, what do you think? I have
Yes.
more? I'm like, yeah, we've
Yeah.
established we're just talking price now.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. What advice would you give 20 how you're what let's say 50 your 16-year-old die? What advice would you give them? And then 70-year-old die, what would you like to be able to say looking back on your life?
So for the first part, this is funny, dude. I've been saying this. This is another interview question. I actually really love this question. And it's like you have that phrase, be cool, do cool shit. I like be relentless, be kind. It's like it's tough to say that because it should be so like instinctual, but like, dude, kindness is just like it's what gets you anywhere, man. Like, just be a cool person and like be chill and like look out for people and like treat them like you would. So like in the relentlessness, like approach things with like an obsession that you just have to get them done versus like versus just like uninspired like slop or flavorless like just like shit being cranked out all the time. Like go at it passionately and do stuff like that you like fucking want to do. 70-year-old me, I think I would just say I never made it as a wise man, never made it as a poor man stealing. This is how you remind me of what I really am. Those are my last words, dude. I'm staking those.
Okay, and then two more questions, I'll let you go.
Yeah.
If you had to fight somebody who's in this game, who would it be? And then not fight, you could kick the shit out of somebody. Those two separate. One is like a gentleman's bout or a gentle person's bout. The other is like, I'd fucking remember the fact scene in Office Space when they're like fucking prison it. Like, I'm gonna put you on the spot.
I'm gonna go. So I would do a breakdance fight with Grant Yoon. Like I feel like that would be fucking
Fucking get
dope.
smoked though,
He
bro.
would kick the shit out
Talk
of me,
about
but I
it.
feel like so I think like you could do like a Matrix slow mo thing where both of us were just fucking like
You see
breakdancing and like doing
did
spin
like
kicks.
720 that motherfucker did? Like,
Dude, he's insane. He's ridiculous, dude. He's so insane. But so I think that would be the coolest. I think that'd be the raddest thing. I don't know how to break dance, but like I'm in for it. The kick the shit out of, dude. I would say going back to my own worst enemy, the iconic song by Lit. I would say myself. How about that, dude? How about turning it on that and kick the shit out of my
a
kick the
good
shit out
not
of
cause
myself
good not
in a solo
not cause any
in a
problems by my shit
yep
answer.
solo mosh pit, dude.
Awesome, brother. Is there anything we didn't cover? This comes up a lot in the shows, and like, I don't know, man. I gotta tell you, like, it's so crazy to me. You were in this game like separate till we met, but I feel like if we're a few years in together now, and
Hmm.
there's nothing more wonderful than like as sort of I guess in my collective, but just like being a part of this and being next to you and watching it. I mean, it's been such a joy.
Thanks,
And I
man.
think it comes across all the time, but you're such a uniquely wonderful human being.
Thanks, man.
And often they always say you can like judge somebody by their partner. Your wife is one of the loveliest people I've met as well.
She is.
And
She
so
is.
Uh,
I appreciate that. Similarly, yeah, it's ground beef, recognized ground beef, dude. It's like, you find the good ones and you hope that like they do all right. It's always like I there's like never moments that I'm happier when I see like people that there's that I see people that I like truly care about like succeeding. Like you see like a sale from an artist that you love, that you really respect. Like when that piece went through for that you bought from Summer, I immediately texted her and I'm just like, dude, like what the fuck? This is incredible. It's like two people who, I genuinely respect and have a deep admiration for. Just like,
that was insane talking
doing
about the
things.
universe, and we'll
Yeah,
wrap
like
up and go back to the piece. But I had met Summer in person. Actually, we hung out, I think, at that bar maybe that where did you have that dive bar where like
that was at what was it? Bar 6 9 in New York, or bar 169, right? Or yeah,
I
or
might have met
I
Summer
forget.
there, and then I met her. Then we hung out in our Basel, and then I was doing the show with her. And look, I was like, "Hey, Summer, like I really like love to hang out with you. I got to be honest, I haven't spent a ton of, I haven't looked into your art as much and your work. Can we review it so I better understand it? Like, not that we're gonna talk about it on the show, but just I always like need to know, want to make sure I
Yeah,
understand." And Summer reviews some of her work, but then tells me about her new collection. She's like, "Look, this is a different thing for me."
yeah,
And she started talking about it. And it's funny, I'm like overwhelmed with emotion. The
yeah.
piece
It's like,
she showed me was about a divorced guy, a guy going through a divorce or divorced. She had taken the legs off him, like literally, he had like fake legs.
holy shit. Yeah, yeah. I know. I've seen. Yeah, I remember the piece,
And how his 17-year-old daughter was helping him, and he has lost himself in a computer.
dude. It's
And
just
I'll tell
insane.
you,
It's
man,
insane.
so I in right before COVID, I left my second wife and had
Yeah,
the by the lawyers in California standards, one of the worst divorces they've ever seen, even though I had a 22-month marriage with a prenup. And this is exactly what happened to me. I had
damn.
been the CEO of a company, ran companies for 13 years, the CEO of a company for 10 years. And due to this divorce, had to resign. I lost my legs. I was divorced now for the second
Yeah,
time. And and my 17-year-old daughter stepped up and had been really supporting me and doing stuff like helping me buy her sister's back to school clothes and presents. And at that time I transitioned from working in manufacturing to doing whatever it is I do here.
yeah.
And it was like
Well,
the
how?
universe. I was like, fuck, I gotta buy it. And like, the rule of that show is like no shilling. And but I
Yeah.
was like, fuck, man, I gotta like buy this piece. This is the craziest fucking thing. So
And it's
that was
almost a well, I was gonna say that's like I feel like it's a beautiful way to wrap too, just that like we're all looking for something here. And like if you're open to it, you're gonna find, that thing that like impacts you, that changes again your day, your life, your year. It's like, yeah, we're all looking,
gets rid of
and it's
that
like fucking
nameless
awesome.
dread.
Yeah, it gets euthanizes the nameless dread, man.
So we'll wrap it up with just a reminder: nameless dread, die with the most likes in conjunction with glitch marfa and art blocks. Long form generative on top of individually created one of ones. There's 669, three more than beef broth goes because dies
Because I
growing up.
grew up. Yeah.
Yeah. And May 30th, 3 p.m. Eastern. Be ready.
Oh, yep. And one last thing. Yeah, that's
That's
all
our first 40.
details. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolute one last thing, and then we can end it. Also, anybody who's around June 1st in either in Austin for consensus, or if you're just like happen to be in Marfa, the Glitch Squad is throwing down a big ass gala. So we're gonna just be crushing beers and listening to Creed. Again, we'll have some like I think I'm gonna do some like truck nuts people can paint or something like that. But like it's gonna be fun as hell. So if you're around June 1st, roll
June
up.
1st. Where is it? At Glitch Marfa?
At Glitch Marfa, yeah. So Derek and
What
Madison will
time?
be throwing down. Yeah, it's at from 6 to 8 p.m. and then after that, I'm sure we're gonna hit a couple dive bars and get rowdy. So it's going to be a fun ass night for sure. So anybody who's around, roll up. And yeah, once again, just wanted to say thank you to Derek and Madison for like in Malta for having me out here, man. It's like it's a childhood dream.
Martha?
Yeah, Malta's he's with Glitch as well. He's an incredible curator. And
that's a person.
yeah,
my bad.
so they no, it's all good. And they just again, it's just like yeah. So they just trusting me to do this thing, man. It's like a childhood dream, and like to be able to come out here and create without any distraction whatsoever. Like it's just been like nuts, and so it's cool, dude. I hope people share in the joy that I've found creating this collection, and like it's gonna be fucking rad, dude. I really appreciate you having me on.
Much love, guys. Much
cool,
love,
dude. I love you, man.
Much love, brother.
Yeah.
Nameless Dread.
Love y'all.
May 30th, 3 p.m. Get yours. Love you, bud.
Love you, man. Peace.
NP episode 2 out.
Later.